Hey, everybody! Welcome. My name is Nate. You're watching WASD20. My dog just started howling upstairs. Perfect timing.
I don't think we can hear it. It's okay.
We're running a little bit late tonight mainly because I got home late and I'm a little flustered as usual for my live broadcasts here. And I am joined by my good friend James from Tabletop Terrors.
Hey guys.
James, how you doing?
Pretty good. Funny thing, like you said, okay, 9:24 it was. I was sitting on the couch. I was watching Doctor Who and I was like, man, I wonder what time it is. I look at the clock and I'm like, oh my God, I need to go. I had everything set up already, but I was very surprised by how late it was.
Yeah.
I was like, oh man, I figured Nate would have messaged me. And then I got your message at 9:30 like, hey, I'll be there soon.
Yeah. Well, and I was telling James, I was at a neighborhood slip and slide party, which I found out is an excuse for the neighborhood adults to get together and get really drunk. So that was an interesting party, but I'm home now. I am sober and I am ready to paint some miniatures. So want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I'm going to be switching the camera over to my miniatures. And while I'm doing that, James, why don't you tell us what you're painting tonight? What are you up to?
All right. So I have a couple of Warhammer minis from, I don't have the cover of the box, but there's a small box of Age of Sigmar, which is the Warhammer Fantasy minis. I'm going to switch over to this. So, okay, that looks like pretty good. So it's probably going to be a little pixelated, but that should be relatively in focus. And it looks so good in the preview, guys. I'm sorry. But I'm going to be painting some Blood Reavers. Well, one Blood Reaver, this guy, who is very clearly a bad guy. I guess maybe not as clear to you, but if you see the good guys, it's very clear that this guy's a bad guy. So this is a good guy.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
And so this is the sort of one of the minions, the Blood Reaver, and then I think this guy, what is he? He's either a Blood Stoker or a Blood Secretor. He's got all this armor. I don't know if you can see, probably too pixelated, but right here, instead of a belly, he has a mouth. There's a uvula in there. Yeah. So it's pretty awesome. So it's gonna be really cool. Kind of a little bit different on both of them. I haven't painted any bad guys yet. I just picked up the paints to get to sort of paint the bad guys. I got mostly the good guy paints. So this is going to be brand new for me. These will be the second and third minis I'm painting ever. So it's going to be a process. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, dude. And show us that first one you painted again, because
let's see.
James sent me a picture of this the other night.
This one.
And I was really impressed. Like, that's a lot better than my first miniature. So,
oh man, I'm very happy with how it came out. I watched a lot of videos, and the beauty is, especially if it's pixelated and this far away, it looks great up close. Like if you look at the details, you know, there's a few spots that could use some work, but that's part of the beauty of it. Is if these are all sitting on a table and you're playing with them or something, it's like they just look good from that like 25 inches away.
Oh, totally.
Which is perfect.
Nice, man. Well, I am, okay, I'm going to switch the camera back to me now that I have my camera set. And I need to set the focus here so we can see some of the things. I've got a grab bag. I have problems. I have many problems in life. One of my problems is like starting things and not finishing them. And so I've got like, oh man, probably like 5 or 6 miniatures at least that I've started. Like this one I base coated and kind of did a coat of darker stuff on the back fur. But I've got this werewolf, Reaper Bones werewolf. I've got this guy, which I started with Jake from Mini Terrain Domain on our mini painting adventure. Yeah. And still haven't totally finished. Like I need to do a little bit of the bits and bobbles.
Yeah, exactly.
Tiny details like on his gun here. And I don't know, just little things. But he's mostly done. So I don't really, and then I've got this Mastiff because my players have a Mastiff and I did like one thin base coat, but I need to, you can obviously see a lot of black primer through still. So I need to work on that guy a little bit because my players in my home group have a Mastiff. So I'm excited to show this to them when we get together again. And I've got various other things that are halfway done. So we'll see where the spirit leads us tonight. But,
it's perfect.
Want to thank everybody for joining us, and Saturday night, maybe what better thing to do than to paint some miniatures. I've also James and I are both wearing our AtCon shirts tonight.
Not planned.
Show that baby off.
So funny thing about that, I hung out with my mom this morning. We went to we ran a few errands together and we had lunch, and I had my AtCon shirt on and she just threw on a shirt. I went to pick her up. We were hanging out, and then I went to pick her up to go to Tim's daughter Evie's birthday party, and she was wearing the same shirt as me. She forgot that I was wearing the shirt, or maybe didn't care or whatever. So her and I were also wearing the same shirt today, which just makes it better that you are. So just know that 3 people in the world are wearing this shirt right now.
Yes, that's so good. That's awesome. Yeah, so at AdCon, at Tacoma Games, just in case people don't know, James is 1/4 of the independent publishing company, RPG Publishing. They do great work. Absolute Tabletop. Most of my subscribers have probably heard me talk about them before, but they had a little convention at a game shop, Tacoma Games. And when we were at Tacoma Games a couple weeks ago, I picked up some of these army painter brushes because I'd heard they were decent, and decided I'm going to try some of these out. So I'm going to be trying out these army painter brand brushes.
Cool thing about that, I I have a hobby store near me that has cheap. It's 10% off of Warhammer stuff. I got my minis. I bought the small box in the actual Games Workshop store, full price, and then I got the starter set online from. It was like a what's it called? The store in Michigan that was selling it cheap. I guess maybe they didn't want it, and so I got it for like $80 instead of like the 130 that they usually go for. But I'm kind of like, well, I'll go here to buy this thing cheap and here to buy that thing cheap. And so there's a hobby town near me with cheap Warhammer minis. But then I found a Coliseum of Comics, which is a comic book store chain near my work. And they have cheaper paints. So I went there to get all my paints. When I went there to get my paints, and I don't know where I put them. I got, what was it called? What's that brand? I forgot already. Army Painter? Yeah, Army Painter brushes. I swear. Nice. Oh, they fell on the floor. I got some as well. I got a little set of them. Mostly because I didn't have a dry brush. I don't think you really need one. But it came with a very fine brush, of which I did not have one yet.
Yeah.
And then I just picked this up. It was the only one they really had at Atlas Brush Co. I don't know. But it's got an extremely, extremely fine tip. And I might have to paint some eyes. So...
Yeah, man, the eyes are tough. I have done eyes in the way where you do the white. And actually, I can't remember now. I think they did black in the socket. Then you do some white to fill in the middle of it, but you still leave a little bit of the black edge. And then you do a black or brown or something. And you don't do bright white. You do kind of almost a skin color white a little bit. And then you do, and I just got this from YouTube videos. And then in the middle of that white, you basically just do a black line down the middle, as thin as you can get it. And then you go with your face color around that to get rid of the line that comes outside. And it's like, man, there's so many different ways. So I've done it that way, but I just can't quite get it to look good. So I pretty much just do a little shadow in the eyes, just do a little black.
Because again, from far enough, it's fine.
Right, exactly. So anyway, I think I'm going to go with this guy's sword and try to finish that up and see if I can finish up any details on him tonight. This is Barnabas Frost, Pirate Captain. Yarg.
That's so cool.
Jake from Military Domain is in the chat. And Jake, here's Barney, man. Here's Barney.
I'm going to answer his question. What do these guys know about painting? I can certainly speak for myself, and the answer is almost nothing. I know what? That paint exists.
Yep. That's a thing.
That's it.
Yeah, that's a thing. Paint is a thing. And what I know is, also very little. I was watching Drunkens and Dragons videos today, some of his mapping videos. It was so awesome. Getting to meet Hankerin has put a whole new enjoyment level of at AtCon, by the way, has given a whole new level of enjoyment for me watching his videos. And Hankerin, if you're watching, I have a man crush on you. So anyway,
so hopefully,
anyway, I was watching some of his videos, and he's always saying, guys, I don't know, I'm just a dude who plays D&D and I know nothing. And that's such a great attitude to go into this stuff with.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
especially because this is me. This is something I enjoy. I didn't buy Warhammer minis because I'm like, you know what, this would be cool for the channel. I'm like, no, I want to paint some Warhammer minis.
Yeah,
that's just it.
Yeah, and we were all like, James, you got to make a video, man.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I do have a channel. I have half of one. Funny thing, Tim was like, hey, make sure you line in log in as Tabletop Terrors when you do the stream, I was like, oh, well, Nate's hosting. He's like, yeah, so when you're in the chat, people see it and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, great point. And then we get started. We were running a little bit late. I was getting ready. I needed to get a drink. And the moment Nate hit the go live button, I was like, oh, I'm not Tabletop Terrors.
Oh,
too
dang.
bad.
Well,
not a big deal.
What difference does that make?
So the only difference it will make is if I type something in the chat, people won't see Tabletop Terrors. They'll say, who in the world is that guy, and why is he saying he's James?
Unless you log into the Tabletop Terrors account in a separate tab, and then enter the YouTube link.
That is absolutely a thing.
And I think I made you guys a moderator on my channel. So if you could do that so that you can also boot any trolls for me, that'd be great, James. I'm just kidding. You don't have to do that.
It's funny. I do that sometimes in our games. Mostly, I think because I'm a moderator on Tabletop Terrors. So I'll do that when we're playing like in Dragon Grin, or maybe I'm on Matt's channel as well. Basically,
yep.
Nate, why haven't you DM'd a game for us? Everybody else is doing it.
I know.
I was just thinking, basically in everybody else's games, it tends to be my turn, and somebody comes in and says something or swears or plugs something or spams.
Yep.
And I get distracted by it, and I like handle it, like I do something, and then it's my turn, and I'm like, oh, sorry guys, I was doing something else. I was busy messing with that troll.
Yep. No, I hear you, man.
I don't know if you guys can see it. There's no way you're ever going to be able to see this, but this guy has a helmet on.
I see it. It's got horns on it.
It's got horns on it. Here's the thing. There's this little area here where I'm like, I'm going to paint this, but like his horn is touching his shoulder. I'm like, well, we'll see, I guess.
Yeah, that can be a little tricky when you get the paint flowing when it's really watery and you're getting that first coat. But when if you get the brush a little bit drier, so that you can make sure, just don't get your paint so watered down when you're getting close to the tip there, so that it doesn't just naturally flow onto the shoulder. That can be where you get in trouble.
See, okay, so you mentioned earlier that you forgot your wet palette. I made one. Did you buy a wet palette? Did you make one?
I have done both. I have made one and bought one. This is one I got on Amazon. It was $11. I highly recommend them.
Yeah, they're extremely cheap. Like for what you get. I'm like, yeah.
Right. And I just couldn't find my paper linings that it came with. This is the sponge thing, which you're supposed to soak for a while.
Yeah.
And then you have these paper linings, which you put over it. And some people will just use parchment paper, which I've done before. And both, work fine. But anyway, I can't find my paper right now, and I was running late, so I'm just like, I'll just use my old
palette. Yeah.
Yep.
So I found I was having trouble with some of the layer paints. I don't know how. I see you're using, what is that? Game color, and I don't know. What
I've got some Vallejo model color, Vallejo game color. I've got some Citadel, but anyway, yeah.
Well, do they specify, because Citadel has base paints, layer paints, other paints. I was painting this guy, and then I just remembered there's nothing was on the camera because I was looking too close.
What happens?
Do those companies have those as well, or do you just like water them down more, or?
Okay, so sorry, say again. Basically, layer, all that stuff?
Yeah. Do they have like different types of paints? Or
I'm not sure, and maybe someone in the chat. By the way, thanks everybody for joining us in the chat. We got 20 viewers right now, and I think that the Vallejo or the Citadel ones are the only ones I know of that have that, like shade. This one, for example, Citadel dry,
exactly,
like chunky as all get out, and it's meant for dry brushing gold on. And then you've got layer. I don't know that other brands necessarily have that. They have their triads of colors that this one's meant to be the base, this one's meant to be the highlight, etc.
Oh yeah.
But they don't actually say that on the bottle often.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that is very much so. I base coated this guy's flesh, so he's going to be done for now. I'm so bad at pointing this at the camera. And there's water right below it. Today, I'm going to drop a mini right into my paint water. There's no question about that. So I base coated that guy first coat, and then I'm going to move on to this guy. But yeah, so I don't know much about paints, but I started with Citadel paints because I'm painting those minis, and it's a little easier. And like for me, it's a little easier because I don't want to get into mixing paints or doing any of that stuff.
Right.
And they do something similar, but yeah, I was having trouble with the layer paints, and I learned that it's easier if I don't put them on the wet palette. If I put them on the wet palette, they just the way they flow, I can't. It's weird. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I roll one. Sorry, I read that wrong. I roll one says just starting. What are we painting? Nate is painting a Reaper Bones miniature, I believe, and I have some Warhammer guys. I'm just gonna move on to base coating this guy in sort of gold, Balthazar gold, if you're curious.
I was.
So, and then the other guy was his first base coat. I'm going to do 2 layers because I can still see the primer. He's that was Rakarth Flesh. Citadel's really cool paint names.
Yeah, they do, man. I've got some
another
of those
thing
too.
I was going to ask you. Okay, so Ungor Flesh. Again, probably my favorite color to say is Ushabti Bone.
Oh man.
I don't know what it is. Like Ushabti Bone. There's a lot of cool colors, but that one.
Yeah, man.
Cool. I had a lot of questions about painting, and they're just all gone. I have no idea what I was going to ask you at all.
They'll come to you.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm like, I think the main thing was I didn't really know what I was doing. So, okay, here's like, this is probably going to sound like a really stupid question. When you wash off your brushes, right, you put them in the water and you hit your webcam as hard as you can, like I just did. You put them in the water, and do you push the bristles down like to get everything out, or do you just like go back and forth really fast, or like on the bottom of the, like, I don't want to mess up the bristles.
So no, I do not push them. I do not bend them. I simply swish it around in my gigantic jar of water here, like this.
Yeah.
And I hit it off on the edge like that, tap it. But I do not touch the bristles. If you want to get the excess water, oh gosh, I have this little dryer thing that I'm using. But I just knocked my miniature over and I knocked my microphone around. If you want to get the excess paint out of here, a good thing to do is a good thing to do is either wipe it on your hand a little bit, just like that, and kind of roll it smoothly, or on a paper towel. A paper towel. I
have a paper towel of all my little bits.
I'm noticing I don't have a paper towel handy. Even a sheet of paper sometimes will be okay.
Okay, yeah, and like you said, doing it on your hand even, you're like, okay, I mean, I could see that. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. But I thin my paints to the extent that I usually like to have a little water in the brush, and I don't actually thin it out.
See, that's another thing. I'm like, so when I use the wet palette that I've made, which is parchment paper on a wet paper towel, I find that I can't thin the paints down anymore, or they're not good.
Oh, absolutely. And I've noticed that too with the wet palette, that sometimes that does the thinning for you.
So I wasn't sure if I'm like, well, because that's the one tip I see. Everybody's like, oh, the one thing you really need to know is to thin your paints. And I'm like, okay, but they're pretty thin, so I think I'm good.
Yeah. I see that Flash Gordon Murr said, is this starting soon? I'm going to tell him, hit refresh, dude.
Yeah. That's always too bad. I've done that myself. Sorry, guys. I keep forgetting I'm painting on camera, and I'm like, okay,
Robert
just learned.
Says, thank God he didn't knock the figure into the paint.
Oh, yeah.
That'd be bad. I've knocked this thing over twice with my little dryer because it won't stay up, and now I moved the dryer. I got wise.
Oh, yeah. See, that's another thing. How did you connect that guy to that?
Okay, so yeah, this is a pro tip for painting. Always mount them on something because it helps so much. This is a pill bottle. I've also got, like, what do I have here? You can just use a paint pot, like a paint that you're not using, or an old paint bottle.
Yeah, I saw a video where somebody used the thing that comes with like cough medicine. You know, like I've seen that same kind of deal. I've used
like the lid for like a little bottle. Like I've used all kinds of things, man. And then I just have some blue tack poster putty. Blue tack poster putty is far superior to most poster putties. Just look for blue poster putty.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I heard that phrase, blue tack, and I'm like, oh man, I got to go to the craft store and look for that stuff, because I have a few different minis that I have to do sub-assemblies for, or at least they suggest like not putting them all together before you paint them. Yeah. Like the first guy I did paint, I had a really hard time because painting like behind where he was holding his hammer was just, I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't think about it at all.
Okay, yeah.
So Cassie's home, so she's going to say hello. Hey, Cassie.
Hi, Cassie. Yeah, cool. So right now I'm just doing I'm doing this guy's sword, And I did some, let's see, this is Vallejo natural steel.
Kind of.
And on the sword, because it was a little dark, I still could see some of my base coat through. And now I'm doing some natural steel mixed with this MSP. It's kind of a whitish blue.
Okay, so you're mixing paints. All right, Cassie saying hi.
Yeah.
Sorry, Nate.
No problem.
Yeah, Nate's talking over here, and Cassie's trying to say hi.
No
Okay.
worries.
Nate's giving real paint tips.
For real?
Yeah, he was for reals, giving real paint tips.
Mm-hmm.
I do it sometimes, once in a while.
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. And then I'm mixing some of that just to doing my highlight with the little whitish blue mixed in. And yeah, it's looking okay. It's looking okay. And I think my wife and kids might be home, and they're being loud. I'm gonna mute a sec, so go ahead and talk amongst yourselves so I can yell at my kid.
So it's interesting to paint for people because, like I said, I keep going back so that I can see my miniature and talk into the mic. And it's difficult because I keep taking it away from the camera. So I'm sorry for anybody who is extremely frustrated by that. I know that I would be.
It's all good, man. Don't even worry about it.
I just got to get used to it. I am absolutely holding it directly over the water, which is the worst idea. I'm just going to move that. There we go.
So let's see. I'm gonna look at the chat a little bit here because I haven't done that very well. Robert McNally's been very active. Thanks for joining us, man. I shared Robert. My dog is a beagle mix. She has a good bay on her. She's got a little bit of a howl.
Oh, I was like, what is a bay? And then, oh, okay.
The MacDM. Yes, it is on my channel. Yeah, in case people are just joining us, Jake calls me a traitor, and that's specifically because Jake from Mini Terrain Domain, because I started painting this guy, and we were planning to we're gonna paint this together, and we're gonna, stream it all, and we did that for 2 episodes, but we're
gonna keep in touch over the summer.
Yeah, and we're gonna get together and share our results, but neither of us finished.
Yeah.
At least I don't think he finished, and I didn't. So now
I believe he said the same thing you did. I don't know if it ain't finished, but I didn't finish.
Yeah. So we're both betraying each other by not doing it. But I think this guy's I'm looking at him and I'm like, you know what? I think he's good enough. I did a little highlight on his buckle there just now too, because it was the same kind of steel, and it's looking decent.
It's definitely looking great.
Thanks, man. I could definitely do a little more detail and touch up here, but I think I can be done with him. I think I can be done. Barnabas Frost. Yeah.
This is probably just something that's going to take practice, but do you have any tips for making lines straighter or not shaking your hands ridiculously?
So yes, I do. One tip is if you can rest your painting hand on your other hand.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That does help. So see how I'm doing that right here? My wrist is resting on that. Another, you can even rest, I can rest these fingers right here on the cap here.
That's
and that helps.
Great reason to have that. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's just all sorts of, you just want to find something stable. Even if you're resting this on the table.
Yeah.
And then your hand on the table as well. There are just little ways that you can, get a little more steady.
Exactly. Just something. No, that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So B Flummy says, chances someone could tell Tim about a video I made. It's about Durgan Blood Mountain. I would go onto Facebook, if you're on Facebook, and join the Absolute Tabletop official group and post it in there, not just for Tim to see, but for everyone else. And that means Tim will see it, as well as many other fans of Provokers, Matt, Barker, other Provokers as well. They'd love to see it, I know. So that would be your best bet.
And tag Tim on that thing. Tag James.
Yeah, and so we can see it.
I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah. Tag party.
Yeah, there's a lot of Provokers fans there for sure. So that'd be cool. Yeah, it's great seeing people being inspired by stuff. I know Matt posted a video of an artist who was inspired by Provokers and posted a video of him drawing something from the Provokers, and that was cool. And yeah.
Oh yeah, there was a really cool dice one. Actually, I just remembered that somebody asked earlier if Matt announced players for the Gloam game. He did a while ago in that thread, and it was me, Tim, Megan Hambrock and Austin Anderson, if I remember correctly.
Okay,
and that game is next Thursday.
Nice. Very nice. So I'm going to switch over now to my Mastiff, because this is one that I know my players are eager for, and I want to get it done. I am going to be using. Someone also said, by the way, that MSP has a has triads. Reaper Paints does have triads, and yeah, that's the nice thing, is that when you get those triads, you're getting a base color, like a highlight 1 and a highlight 2. I don't know what they call them, but basically, you're getting them in order of, like, so you get your darkest to lightest, and a lot of them have those, and that is handy for planning. I have just been so cheap that I've never bought more than like a couple. Like I couldn't bring myself to buy, like, 3 different shades of blue all at once. So like, just add a little white, or add a little black or whatever.
I found myself, I was making lists for all the paints I needed. And there were a few things where they're like, hey, this one thing is purple, but it's a different purple than the one thing that's purple on the other guy. I'm like, listen, I'm going to paint those both the same purple. You're lucky I'm buying one of the purples for just one thing.
Absolutely. You tell him, James. You tell him.
I have spent an extreme amount of money on paint already, but I'm telling myself that you only really need to do that once, and then you'll mostly just be sort of, buying a few here and there when you run out or need another one. I also am doing my best not to allow myself to buy any more little guys until all of these are assembled and painted, which will likely take months, because I have probably 10 guys from this set of these, and then I want to say the starter box came with 70 minis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I've got my work cut out for me, but I'm very excited to get them all painted and play with them.
Yeah. Someone asked if I have any Warhammer videos on my channel. I do not, sorry. I have not dabbled, but I'm hoping to see some Tabletop Terrors videos. I know you guys are all about RPGs, but there's the tabletop there, so there's hope.
Yes, we actually. I not only do I want to do Warhammer videos, mostly because now I'm into it, and I'm like, well, why wouldn't I do a video about the thing I'm into? But we also have sort of lined up. They came at a bad time when Tim was moving, and we were doing AtCon, and we took a hiatus for a little while. A few board games. We're going to do like how to play board games and kind of talking about them.
Nice.
We have a few of those, sort of lined up as well. But yeah, we're just sort of getting back in the swing of creating again.
Yeah, and in case you don't know, Absolute Tabletop has been very busy with fulfilling their Kickstarter for Oath of the Frozen King, and you've also got Deadman's Guide to Dragongrin that you're working on. That'll be your next Kickstarter one of these days. One of these months, I should say.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Oath of the Frozen King, we just finished up writing. Like everything is technically written, and then we're going to go into the editing phase, which there's some writing there, but it's mostly just sort of firming up some stuff and making sure everything makes sense and whatnot. But the other night we had a work hangout, our first one in quite a while. And because we mostly, we work all separately, and Oath was mostly written by us separately. And, you go and do Google Docs and you throw a few things in, and because we were working on Oath for quite a while before we kickstarted it.
Yeah.
And so that was the first time we really sort of all jumped in and buckled down and worked on stuff again. To hit that deadline. It was really cool. We had very little to do for that deadline, but
yeah, because you guys, you tried your best to have it all, like, basically a complete product that can be used by people, which I can verify that yes, it was, before you even launched the Kickstarter.
Exactly. So most of the stuff we wrote were stretch goals.
Yeah. And then you've got the layout and art. That's kind of what you're using the money from the Kickstarter for.
Yeah, exactly. That's the interesting part. People, like, a lot of people. I say a lot. I've backed Kickstarters before, so I'm trying to make sure I get this the paint in a good spot.
Yeah.
For people to see. Some Kickstarters I've backed before. What happens is they get the money because they have an idea. and they think they're going to pay themselves or other people, you know, for X amount of months to like write this book or create this game or make this art or write this comic, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then they realize both that money is spent a lot faster than you realize, and that
it's a lot harder to do.
Yeah, and that they need like 50 to 75% of that money to print and ship everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, well, I spent it all making it, and even if I did make it, well, I don't have the money to get it to anybody.
Yes.
So
and
it's a really interesting thing, you know.
Yeah. And I'll say this, even as a creator, just with my maps, for example, even if I am able to say like, hey, I've raised this money. I mean, I'm just hypothetically saying if I had done like a map Kickstarter, which I don't think I'm going to ever do, but, you know, I think that even if I have all this money that I basically can like pay myself to do this. I've made all this money and it justifies me spending all this time pouring into this. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's just going to get done. Like, there's still, you have to sit down and spend hours and creative energy that doesn't always come naturally. That sometimes is like, I'm feeling, you know, burnt out and I just I don't have it in me right now to sit down and do this, even though I know people have paid me to do it. And there's so many Kickstarters that have had that happen, that, you know, people just, they're going to write a novel. They're going to, you know, do whatever. And it's just like, you know, it's not that easy. It's not just a matter of time.
That's the main thing. And that's one thing that we've always been very careful about that made Kickstarter a little bit scary for us. As far as we've never taken money for a product that didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
We were just like, listen, you know, some people were like, hey, you should do a subscription model where, you know, you come out with something, you know, we pay you X amount and you come out with something. And we're like, listen, really cool idea. We really like it. But we, just in case something happens and we can't come out with something, we don't want to take people's money and not be able to give them something.
Yep. Totally.
Because multiple things have come up, you know, in the middle of stuff. In fact, like Barker's father passing, you know, was kind of it happened at a time where we were taking a break already because it was on vacation. But the idea is it put him out of commission to some degree. He's helping his mom with stuff, getting stuff arranged. And that's part of the reason why there are 4 of us, is so that when something like that happens, it's like, okay, you know, not a big deal. You know, we can help on oath. I mean, he's been helping and stuff. But the idea is sometimes unforeseen stuff shows up. And seeing how it's not my only job, you know, seeing how I'm not paid to do Absolute Tabletop full time, you can't guarantee that you're always going to have the free time to create whatever it is we promised. So that was a big deal for us, having a mostly, if not almost nearly entirely finished product before we ever ask for money for it. Kind of a tangent there, but
oh, that's good. And I have myself temporarily muted, so I appreciate your tangent so that people don't have to hear all this crap.
Black Magic Craft says he painted that dog a few weeks ago. Oh, and B Flummy, sorry, I just saw this. He said the artist Matt posted the video about was me, actually. It was B Flummy, so that's really cool. Like I said, you should post that. I think Matt might have posted that one, but you should definitely post the Durgan video in the Absolute Tabletop group.
Yeah, and the Absolute Tabletop group on Facebook, I've mentioned it before, but it's just like, it's an incredible place. It's just so positive, mainly because it's moderated by 4 guys who are just so inspirational and positive and committed to making, you know, keeping that a positive place. So, and the community, I mean, greatly helps with that. I love, my favorite thing is when somebody goes into the Absolute Tabletop group and like kind of tries to start a fight, because usually it's not like the mods have to step in. It's like, no, people are like, hey, or either they, you know, it goes very like it ends up civilly, like, oh, okay, no, that's pretty cool. You know, if somebody's like, oh, I don't like 5e, they'll talk about other systems or ask what they do like or whatever. And then if people post sort of like just marketing stuff, and they just go in there and it's clear they're just trying to market for themselves, it might get 1 like. You know what I mean? I'm like, listen, our community will absolutely stand by you if you have a cool thing and you tell us about it. But if you just go in there and drop a link to buy something, nobody kind of cares, you know? Yeah.
And I'm like, I kind of like that. Because it's just like the community decides, you know, what they like. It's not up to us. Even if we post something, you know, and nobody likes it, I'm like, well, we like started the group, and that doesn't mean, you know, that doesn't mean we're the group.
Yeah.
So I really like that.
Yeah, no, it's cool. for sure. I have started, so if just so people know, I'm using a bone white game color for the base coat over my black primer for this Mastiff, and now I am just kind of I'm realizing it's a little bit too light, so I added some what was it? I can't remember. Marron beige. There it is. Model color Marron beige, just to darken it up a bit. And gonna try that. And then I think this Mastiff is gonna be pretty, like, Mastiffs vary in color, but this one's gonna be pretty light tan, just kind of an off-white. And then I'll do a little bit of black on his back, like a black wash, just because I don't know if you've ever seen that, but yeah, there's just kind of like this under fur that's a little darker
like
on some dogs.
Almost like a brindle pattern.
Yeah, almost, yeah. So brindle, nice, James.
Nice brindle reference, bro.
Yeah, dude.
So I do have a question for you, but real quick, because Cassie got home and I told her I'd go see her. I'm gonna go see Cassie for like 2 minutes, guys.
Yeah,
apologize, a little cool guy standing here potentially. He's kind of got to dry anyway. I'm not quite done with the base coat here, but
oh, I think I have it on me only. I gotta switch that over. Sorry, dude. Let me.
So that's okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Yeah, sounds good, man. I'm sorry, guys. I had the camera on me only, but Alec Visser's in the room. Hi, Alec. I miss you, man. We gotta talk sometime. Let's see, and let's see. Oh, so Black Magic Craft. Just want to say thanks for joining us, man. I'm a big fan of your channel, and it's good to see you, man. In case people don't know Black Magic Craft, he's got awesome RPG crafting videos, and definitely people need to check him out. Robert McNally says, "Hey Nate, I got a Dice of Men and am enjoying it as well." Oh, I got it. Oh, Dice and Men, the book. Yeah, man, Robert, I love that book. So good. I just am enthralled by the history of D&D in general. So, and it's got so much other good stuff in there. Ratmaster 2000, this Mastiff is from the Kickstarter 3. That is correct. I am going to try to adjust my color a little bit. I got a paintbrush in my mouth, so excuse my here. But it's like a little bit, I think I need to adjust my exposure, because once you get white on the camera, it's really hard to make it out. That's a little bit better. It's just hard to see. But yeah. All right, let's keep going here. It's not the most entertaining miniature here. There's a lot of kind of sameness, but I'm going to get to the straps and the armor. He's actually got an armor plate there in the front. Pretty awesome. I'll be getting to that very soon here. And I'm going to...
Okay, shut up again. I'm back.
I'm going to go ahead and not drink out of my paint water and instead drink from my my other cup here. The cap.
Water.
I had to very intentionally tell myself before going live, drink out of cap, drink out of cap, drink out of cap. Not the jar. I do drink out of mason jars sometimes, but not tonight.
Not tonight.
Yeah. Nate, top 3 favorite minis of all time. Go! Oh, man. I don't know. Like, I have painted about 20 miniatures ever, so I don't... like, this guy is up there. Barnabas Frost. I'm pretty proud of my goblins. My goblins turned out well. In terms of, like, I don't know. Like, yeah. They turned out nicely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Reaper Bones. And let's see. In my collection, he says, yeah. And like, and in terms of unpainted, this was one I immediately pulled out of the Reaper Bones Kickstarter 3. I was like, oh, this is going to be one of the first. It's not showing up well at all, but yeah,
it's so white,
it's so washed out. Yeah, the white ones really don't show up well. Let me try adjusting my exposure even more. Oh, there you go. Yeah, see, now you can see.
Oh yeah.
It's basically like Man Bat, and I just love it. It's so cool, but it's not going to be that exciting to paint because it's just, I mean, it's going to be kind of like this guy where it's like, it's probably going to be a lot of brown. And other than that, like my I don't even know where he is. It's basically my Erdon miniature, even though we didn't play provokers with miniatures.
I've shown him an Erdon, yeah.
he's a wood elf, and he's got like a sword and a dagger in his hand, and he's just. I feel really good about how I did on that. I'm gonna go look for him a sec while James updates on what he's doing.
Awesome, yeah. So I'm still base coating this guy. He has a lot of Balthazar gold on him. It says gold, but it's a very bronzy color. I really like how it's coming out. But there's a lot of it on there, and it's hard for me. I'm learning to talk and really paint and get in there. So I apologize. I have not tried doing this yet. I'm actually quite surprised at how well Nate is able to do it.
I'm a pro, James.
That's the thing. It's the talking and the painting. I'm like, I just get in a zone where I everything disappears, and I'm like, oh yeah, people are here watching. What am I doing?
I appreciated how much Jake Norman talked when painting. Yeah. He got very little done, and I got a lot done. I'm like, yeah, keep talking, James or Jake.
And that's the thing. That's what I was thinking. Is I'm like, man, I didn't get anywhere on these guys. I'm like, oh, because I've been talking the whole time, which is fair, but
yeah.
It didn't occur to me because usually Cassie and I would just put on some TV and then we'd both paint. And, you don't talk much while you do that. You just stare at minis.
Yep. I'm kind of disorganized with my office renovation. Still trying to finish up the dang wall I'm building and other stuff in the basement here. So I can't find my box where the Air-Dawn miniature is, but he's a pretty cool wood elf with a bright green, different shades of green, lots of different shades of green. And I'm pretty proud of that one, but I can't find him.
Do you have a sort of a method of arranging your paints?
Nope.
Okay, because I have I'll show you guys my really cool storage method for paints.
Yeah.
Nate, you're going to be jealous. When I buy them at the store, they give me this bag, and they all just go in there.
Man, you got my hopes up, James. Got my hopes up.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I definitely want to get something. I cleaned off my desk. I'm going to get some little drawers. I have like a little shelf on my desk where there's like room under it for like drawers. And I keep seeing drawers and I keep forgetting to measure how tall the dresser is. Or sorry, the little area is that the drawer would fit. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to buy one for $10 that'll probably fit all my paints if it's 2 inches too tall.
Yep. No, I hear you. Dr. Faust, which is probably my favorite miniature painting channel, had a really good video on. I would say it's not a really good video actually. I'm gonna be straight with you, James, because he's showing off a what do you call it? A thing he bought, a basically shelving thing. It's like a clear thing for nail polish.
Okay, yeah. Is it like multi-tiered?
Yes. And it's clear, and it's like,
you know how I found to like find those online?
Why? How?
Just search for spice racks.
There you go.
Somebody mentioned that online. I was like, oh yeah, and I searched for spice racks, and I'm like, yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. And like it works really well it can fit various different brands. It's not like, it's big enough that it can fit a small bottle or a bigger like Citadel one.
Exactly.
And that seemed really cool. And they're like, I don't know, maybe like $15-20. So I should probably get one of those.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, I probably have, I don't even want to say this number. I probably have 50 paints now.
James.
It's been like a week.
You have done a bad thing, James.
I know, but I need all these colors for my guys, Nate. They gotta be the colors.
You know what? Here's the thing. You are ahead of the game. You're set. But there are very few people who do what you do. So many of us suffer through like 10 bottles of craft paint. And I have like these 3 bottles of good paint. And like,
And that's the thing. I totally get that. I was just like, I absolutely understand, because basically my budget for most other things went to this, and it took 2 weeks, but that's the other thing. I'll only have to spend that much once. I mean, I probably have half of the paints that Citadel offers.
Yeah. And for your 70 miniatures, like that's a lot of miniatures too. So obviously you're going to need a lot of paints.
Yeah. And it's like, when I started, I bought just all the ones I needed for the good guys. And still I'll need like a couple here and there for, like one guy rides a beast called the Dracoth. And, I'll need like one there and like a few other little ones. But now I have all the ones to paint all of the main guys in the armies.
Yeah, that's cool. So, so you're excited not just about painting them, but also playing Warhammer, correct?
Yes, I am very curious. In fact, I went to the store in expecting to buy the Warhammer 40K brand new set. They just came out with a brand new edition of Warhammer 40K. They're on 8th edition now. The rules have changed significantly based on what I've heard. I don't really know about it. And that's what I was going to buy. It has the rules and everything and stuff. And I went with my dad. And then I learned sort of basically the way it works is you buy say you buy Space Marines or whatever. You then have to buy these books that have all the stats in them. So you can buy the guys, but you can't play with them if you don't know what their stats are.
Dang.
And that was news to me. And so I was asking the guy, like, what are some of the pros and cons of getting these versus these? He's like, well, you know, the Warhammer Fantasy, they call them Age of Sigmar now. All the War Scrolls, the stats for them are completely free. I'm like, I'll have one Age of Sigmar, please.
Yes. James, I'm so proud of you for making the right choice there.
Yeah, because I'm like, listen, I'm going to get into the Space Marines and stuff, but I also wanted to make sure this was something I was going to enjoy first.
Right.
Which I was pretty sure I would, and I do, but that's the other main thing is I have my dad to play with. Yep. I don't think he's as into the painting or assembling necessarily.
Yeah.
But he's my, hey, you want to play some Age of Sigmar guy?
Yeah. And James, when you said I went with my dad to the store, like I immediately just wanted to say like, hey, everyone, just so you know, James is like 14 years old and his daddy took him to the store.
His daddy took him to the store. It's funny because, yeah, I actually drove and bought it. He did help me. He bought the when we were on vacation, he bought me the big box. Like I bought like a little box with like a couple guys. And, you know, it's like, oh, you know, we can get started with this. You know, you can play with just that. Super cool. And he surprised me with the big box, like the real starter set with all the guys in it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's cool.
No, that's very cool. Very, very cool. I'm going to get caught up on the chat a little bit here. Looks like people haven't been too chatty, but Alec Wizard says, let's bring back Nate Ross in reference to my mapping. Yeah. I guess I am painting. So let's paint a happy little color here.
A happy little color.
Yeah, and right behind that, let's just imagine that in my little Mastiff, there's a red tongue right there, and
so that was one other
part
thing
down there too.
Are some minis just boring to paint? Like, how's that Mastiff going?
Yeah, this will be a little more boring, but you know what? It's like you just got to have it for your table, and I'll make it interesting by, you know, there's still there's still an artistry to it. There's still skill involved in getting it to look good. That's the main thing. Black Magic Craft. I lasted 5 minis with craft paint and went all in on mortgage payment worth of Reaper paints. and you know, Black Magic Craft, Jeremy, you were so like, you had the most amazing collection of cardboard pawns that you had made, or like cardstock or whatever.
Yeah.
Like the paper minis that he had made, and they were really looking good. And then I think a viewer sent him like a shipload of of 3D minis, and
and it was like
it's all over, man. Sorry, dude. That's funny. Yeah, I see. The thing is, like, I could be much more cost effective in my purchasing of miniatures if I bought a big pack, like even the Amazon Vallejo packs or something like that, or the Reaper packs. But I actually like an excuse to go to my local game shop. Like if I'm out running errands, I'm like, oh, I'm going to stop by the game shop and buy a bottle of paint or two. And,
exactly.
So I'm little, $12 by $12.
Building up
spending fortunes on paint.
Yeah.
I just got 3 bottles. It's only $12 or $10 or whatever.
One thing I was very happy about. Every time I've gone to the craft store, I've met like somebody that was nice.
Yes.
And the comic book store, like I was talking to some guys who, it was Friday Night Magic. I didn't realize it, but I went there on Friday night after work.
Yep.
To get these paints so I could paint these guys. And that's what they were playing. But of course, they played Warhammer, and we were talking about it. I'm like, man, I'm just happy that everybody's so nice. I've come across so many nice people that are into it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. Yep. This so I primed this guy in black, and man, he's taken a while to cover in such light colors. Like I'm just doing coat after coat, trying to cover up this black primer here.
Yeah. So I could only find a gray primer.
Okay.
And so I feel like that is good enough. There are some, because I have a white spray that some people, suggest, like on certain ones, where like you put that and then you just layer over it, and it has a really good effect instead of painting. But because I'm base coating everyone, obviously, like you said, for you, if it's black and you're base coating it like a much lighter color, you're just gonna have a hard time. But
yeah, yep. And I have some white spray primer, but I recently got my first bottle of brush on primer, which is this Tester's Model Master. I don't even know if it's Tester's. Is it? I think it is. Anyway. It's basically just a matte paint that the guy recommended, like actually being really good for a miniature primer.
Yeah.
And yeah. Seth Granger says, "Hey y'all, Nate, if you really go full Ross, that means I fall asleep." Yeah, dude, that's the thing my dad would do. He would, on a like Sunday afternoon after church or something like that, he'd put on some Bob Ross or some golf and fall asleep on the couch.
That was before it was like, what Netflix thing am I going to put on to fall asleep to? You're like, listen, man, the reason they put golf on in the afternoon is so I can go to bed.
No, it was Bob Ross recorded on VHS, man.
Oh, even better.
Oh, I love it. I love Bob Ross. All right, I'm gonna get out my heat gun here and try to dry this up so I can. Oh man, it's just taking a while to cover.
I have to admit that this mini has far more detail than like I considered versus the other one. As far as even just the base coat, I'm like, well, I got to get all these parts that are gray, make them not gray, and I'm like, wow, he's got like chainmail and stuff. So it's going well, but it is certainly a longer process than I expected at first.
James, not only could people not hear you because of my heat gun for a minute there, but I couldn't hear you at all the whole time.
So I was saying that I started painting this mini, and it is a lot more intricate than the last one. There are a lot of little intricate parts.
Oh, yeah.
Like a lot of chainmail and stuff. And so while it's not currently difficult because I'm only doing the base coat, it is mostly difficult because I have to get paint in all these little holes.
Yes, absolutely.
Consider that.
Yeah, those can be tricky for sure. And in those cases, like just making sure you have your paint good and thin so it flows easily into those. But then the flip side is then you need more coats. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. So. That's the one thing. I'm like, I've coated this guy probably 4 times, and it's I think I'm just about done. But I'm like, well, I've painted one mini, so I don't really know what to expect.
Right. I might actually flip over here to something a little more interesting, just for the sake of my viewers here, to this goblin, while my Mastiff lets his fifth. No, I don't think it's fifth, but anyway, third or fourth coat dry over this dang black primer. Actually, you know what? Maybe I'm going to do some of the brown straps now, I think. That's what I'll do. So
I think this base coat here is finished already. This guy's looking really cool.
Dude, that is awesome. He's got all kinds of spiky craziness.
There's so much going on. And I can't, and he's got his axe is made of bone. So there's like a brass part and then it's bone. I can't wait to like make that bone and then shade it. It's going to be so cool.
Yeah. Oh, so did you get some washes, some of these shades?
I did. Yeah. So a couple, in fact, I'll show you. There are specific, they have about 10 shades. Some of them I'm sure are like just way too specific, but I got Reichland Flesh Shade. This
got that one.
Lightish reddish. This is probably one of the most common ones. This one, Agrax Earth Shade. It comes
I got that one too.
Really often. And then there's one more, which is like a black sort of color.
Is it Nuln Oil?
It is Nuln Oil. Those 3 are like, if you got 3 shades, those have to be the ones. This is like blackish. This one's reddish. And this one's brownish.
And those are the ones, man. Especially the black and brown. But the flesh especially is handy because so many miniatures have skin showing. So like normal mid to light skin tones. I shouldn't say normal. That's racist right there, Nate. But
And,
anyway.
yeah, somebody said have to have Reichland and Agrak. So this guy that I'm painting, I think after I'm going to do one more coat of his Reichland or Rakarth flesh, and then I think he's going to get Reichland flesh shade.
Yeah.
Like that's
Cool.
going to be his shading.
I'm going to answer this question here from, because he's asked it a couple times, I think, and I'm sorry I haven't been responsive. But Abisek, maybe I'm saying that right, maybe, says, WASD, got any tips for a new DM playing the Mines of Phandelver with a group of new players? You know, I don't have any specific tips. I guess, you know, relax, have fun. Talk with your players after the game about what they liked and didn't like if you're worried they're not enjoying it, and see if you can maybe, you know, I think that's something that I need to do with my players from time to time, and I got to remind myself to do that. Just like, hey, you know, what parts of this do you like and don't like? Because for me, I am very interested in continuing to play, and I want to do what my players want to do because I want them to keep playing.
Exactly. Kind of try to cater it to your group.
Yeah. Especially if they're people you like. I mean, if you're playing with a random game group, then there's something to be said for, like, you know, well, you know, I'm just going to play the game I want to play. And I can always find players. And I have that. I would not have a problem finding players for a game. There are tons of people who would want to play, but these happen to be friends of mine who I really want to hang out with. And I want them to, and they're new to D&D, and I want them to continue liking it.
Exactly.
So, yeah, so I try to ask that.
So I will steal Matt's. Matt mentioned, somebody asked something similar. Matt mentioned on his channel, or not on his channel, but like on Facebook or whatever. He said Phandelver is a little bit sandboxy. So just keep in mind, you know, you kind of have to know a lot of it as a GM. You have to know what like the next three things your players could do are. I've read through it once a while ago. I haven't run it. But just like you said, take your time. And like, don't worry about having to get through things. Somebody asked a question about Phandelver the other day. And it was about the inn. They were like, how do I get them to talk to all these people in the inn? And it's like, well, that's actually a really interesting point. Just let them do what they do. And if there's something in the book that says, if they talk to people in the inn, then do it. But, you know, it's like, they don't have to, it's not a list of all the things they have to do. You know, it's like, they're going to go with what they are interested in. And that's perfectly okay.
Yes. Yep. And yeah, and don't be afraid to like adjust, and they're going to take things off the rails in directions you didn't expect. And they're going to, you know, pursue this NPC, and like, they're really interested in that person. And then at that point, like, hey, take it off the rails a little bit and make something up. And, or at times, you know, if you're new and you're uncomfortable with that, like, I think it's also okay to say like, hey guys, listen, I'm kind of new to this. Like, I kind of planned for tonight for you guys to do this thing. And like, if you could just do that, like,
yeah,
like, oh, you're saying no to that quest. Well, that's kind of all I had going tonight. So just to let you guys know, in a meta sense, I think for a new, you know, once you get more experienced, you can adjust, and that might be an opportunity for excitement and improv. But when you're brand new and it's like your third session and they're like, you're like,
Yeah, they're like, what's the next town over? You're like, you don't understand. This is a pre-written adventure. There's no next town. This is the town.
Yep, totally. So it's that balance. I know some people would say, blasphemy. I could do anything my players want to do. I'm a master of improv, but like, hey, that's not everybody yet. And
exactly.
That's okay.
It's not when you're first starting. At least certainly wasn't me when I was first starting.
Yep. And there was one session in particular where I think like, oh, I could have done that better. Or you can, you know, make it work by sort of railroading. Sometimes just by like, like one time my players had this, I had this thing planned where they had finished this quest in session 1. And then in session 2, I was expecting them want to go back to the town where they got the quest. But I didn't realize I had killed the person who had gave them the quest or something like that. And that they might not have a reason to go there. And they wanted to go to this dwarven city that was like a day's journey away. And I was like, oh, shit. Like,
you're like, wait, I forgot.
Yeah. So I had a messenger chase them and fire an arrow with a note tied to it. That was basically had some reason for them to come back. It was like, that was ridiculous, but like, you know, I did what I had to do.
Yeah, exactly. And that's
what
like
I had planned, and I was like pretty new at that point.
that's a beautiful thing, though. You're like, you figured it out, you know?
Yeah.
So real quick to address a few things. One, I forgot one other shade I got, which this is a very specific shade, but it's called Druchii Violet, and it's a purple shade. And it comes in to play when you're doing like, there's a guy who instead of a hand has like fastened a blade into his arm, and you paint that around there, like, bruised and stuff. Very cool.
Very cool.
But one of those where I'm like, I'm gonna always have Druchii Violet. I'm not gonna be using a lot of that.
Yeah, I've got one of those too, and it's Coelia green shade, I think, and I don't use it a ton, but like it's good for, it can be used for greens or blues. Really, you can kind of give your blues a greenish tone too, and it's just a little shadow. Yeah, but yeah, sometimes they're good. Someone mentioned what was it? Devlin Mud is liquid talent. Devlin Mud, to the best of my remembrance, my recollection, is the old Citadel brown wash before they changed their formula and redid some of their colors. And it was, a lot of people were upset about Citadel changing it. Where I can't even find my where is that thing? Agrax Earthshade. That's the new one, right? That's the one you have, right, James?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the newer brown wash, if I'm remembering correctly. I also did get this sepia shade from Vallejo, which I've seen Dr. Faust use. This stuff is a little thicker though, so you got to be careful. A little thicker than I was expecting a wash to be. So, but
there's one thing I learned. I'm like, use way more. I had to use way more wash than I expected to get the effect he got in the videos.
Yes.
I like put on a little bit, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. But I'm like, oh wait, no, he friggin' piles it on there. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no, and pile it on there, and if it pools in weird places where you don't want it to pool, then you just kind of take your brush or a little corner of paper towel and try to dab it to.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm doing a wash on this guy. I have Reichland Flesh Shade is what he's getting.
Okay. Yeah, because it's gold, right? Or copperish.
No. So this is my flesh guy. This is my guy without a shirt on.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah.
So yeah, he's just, but it is pooling a little bit. But yeah, so this is gonna be cool. But
yep. And I will be using a brown wash on this my Agrax Earthshade on this Mastiff as well, but I will use a black wash somewhere on the top of his back just to give it that kind of ruddy look a little bit to the coat.
So someone else mentioned are there any what is it? I think he asked if we knew any good tutorials for washes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dr. Faust definitely has one. And I've got one that's like my miniature painting. If you look up like how to paint Reaper Bones on YouTube, you'll find my series. And I've got, I think it's part 3 that is like base coat and washes. For what it's worth, I am not as good as someone like Dr. Faust or some of the pros out there, but I've learned a bit, and I've watched a lot of his videos and decided to give my hand at making some of my own specific to Reaper Bones.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, that was Trollocs that asked that. I thought it was someone else. But Ben Abhishek mentioned again, he was like, okay, so I should probably study the sort of adventure booklet so that I know what to do. Yes, if you're going to run Mines of Phandelver, I would probably read it twice, or at least read the first half twice before you run your first game. So you have an idea of like the next place they're going to go, the next thing that's going to happen kind of thing.
Yep. And running a module is challenging. And, it's a different sort of challenge than homebrewing. When you have no concept of what the game is, I found a module extremely helpful when it was like my first time running it, because I was just like, I don't know what a session should include. Like I don't have enough idea of what this game is yet to make something up. So I'm just gonna to run a module. Exactly. And then as soon as I got a good enough idea, I was kind of like, I don't know if I want to run modules very often anymore. I am doing one right now, and I'll continue to do one occasionally. I'm doing some.
I love reading them. Just love. I don't know what it is. I love reading them.
Yeah.
Before I ever played D&D, I started writing my first module, I did this 3 times, and I had never played D&D, but I had read the rules a couple times, and I was so concerned with, like, oh well, I wonder if that's how you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
And I find that so interesting looking back. I'm like, I had some cool ideas, but I was so caught up in, I wonder how someone else would do it, and not just like writing like, well, if the play, you can literally do anything. Well, if the players do this or that, anything can happen, I was so concerned in looking at other modules and like, well, how did they do it? Okay, they list this. I was like, not copying them, but very much copying the style and like the tables they would list and stuff like that.
Yep. Right. And then at some point you just realize, oh, I just need to get at the art of making stuff up.
Exactly. Yeah. Then I just was like, wait, I can just like write down a couple notes and run a game. Whoa. Like I don't have to, in my mind, in order to play D&D, you had to run modules.
Yeah. Yep. And that's why I'm also very confident in the success of publishing companies like Absolute Tabletop who do modules, or in your case, like an adventure kit. Yeah. Is that there are people who just, that's the way D&D is played.
Yeah, that's how they play.
And that's totally fine. It's a valid style of play. And I think that sometimes we tend to poo-poo people who don't have their own homebrew world or setting or whatever. And it's, you know, that's totally fine that they just, that's the way they do it.
What do you do when there's like one little piece out of place on your, oh, I tore it out. I had like one little thing out of place on my brush and it was bothering the crap out of me, and then I just pulled it out and it was fine.
Yeah.
It took longer than the rest.
No, I get that once in a while. Or if it's not a great quality brush, you get like a bristle that's like coming loose, and it's like, oh, there's a weird bristle sticking out of the end here, and it just ruined that thing I was painting.
Clippers, I swear.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to do this guy's chain collar now. I will be using natural steel again, which is just kind of my go-to silverish metal. I'm going to try that out here. I might darken it up first with a little bit of black, and then, oh my gosh. No!
What'd you do?
It was not coming out very easily, and I just squirted the biggest pile of paint.
Oh, I see it. Is it because, you know what? Okay, so I have that problem all the time, but not with paint. You know what I have that problem with?
What?
Taco Bell fire sauce. There's like a glob in the edge, and it must just be like a little pepper or whatever's in there. And I'll be like, oh, I need to squeeze this. And you squeeze it, and it sprays everywhere. At least that's a lot cheaper. But
all right, James, keep the people entertained here while I go grab a paper towel from upstairs.
Okay. So, Abhishek, you said reading the module made you a little confused of where to go with it. The important thing is it's split up into sections, and basically just take them through each section, basically. I believe it starts out where we're on a cart, and the players will have the choice after one ambush, maybe, to either go down a road to Phandelver or go to a cave, I think. It's been a long time since I read it. But the important thing is, as long as you know, just read each section separately and kind of like, okay, if they go here, these are all the things they can encounter. If they go here, these are all the things they can encounter. I would say definitely start with Phandelver. It's a really good starting thing that kind of gets everybody into it, like into D&D, and gets them started, especially if your players also haven't really played before. I think it's a great idea to run it, and you should definitely give that a shot. Let's see. And then, okay, Bloodthirst. Can I use Warhammer figures for D&D? As far as I know, you can use any figures for D&D. I think they're roughly a similar scale. I know that Wargaming has multiple different scales, so I'm pretty sure you would be able to just use, whatever you want. Exactly. Black Magic Craft is saying, you can basically use whatever you want for D&D, and that's true. Nate has some Reaper bones, but, I mean, you could use some of these guys as your character if you wanted, or as other characters, or as proxies, or as enemies. It's kind of all up to you, especially with D&D.
I'm back.
Sweet. So Abhishek, when they get to a place and it has numbers, usually there's a map somewhere that tells you what the numbers correspond to, so you can tell where everything is. That is most commonly if there are numbers. So I am going to paint the detail of this guy's armor, which I'm not excited about to do. Because it's so intricate. The detail of this guy I'm going to do corn red. And it's going to look really cool when I'm done if I don't screw it up.
Yeah, that'll be challenging for you, man. Good luck. May the gods be with you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I squirted a little bit on my hand and on the desk here, and I wanted to make sure I whipped that up. So, that was traumatic, James. This natural steel, I like the color when it goes well, but I've just got this big pile of like blackish with a little bit of like metal tint in it. So sometimes it comes out really dark if I don't shake it well.
Oh yeah,
it's a little too dark, but I'm gonna try it because I'm okay with a little dark on the base of this anyway. James, did you answer the question about using Warhammer minis for D&D yet?
I did, yeah. And I think Jeremy Black Magic Craft also mentioned, like, yeah, you can kind of do whatever you want. And he mentioned, I mentioned I wasn't sure of the scale, and he said it's the perfect scale. I figured it was at least close, but I don't know much about it.
Right. You don't have that much experience with D&D miniatures, do you, James?
No, almost none. I knew someone when I first played D&D. It was with a friend of Tim's who had a ton of minis. And so I've seen them, and I used to, the first time I played D&D, I would always play with minis. Mm-hmm. In fact, I didn't know about Theater of the Mind until I started playing with, like you guys in the group and stuff like 2 years ago.
Yep.
Abhishek asked another question. When they get to the numbered buildings, do they go to every building? Abhishek, it's totally up to them what they do. It's just for you, so they can say, oh, what's around here? You can say, oh, well, on the left, there's a blacksmith, and on the right, there's a whatever.
Right.
And it's up to them to say, we want to go in there. Okay, which one? I'm like, oh, I want to go to the blacksmith. And you're like, all right, so you look, and you're like, okay, well, the blacksmith is number one, so when they go in there, it might tell you to roll something or do something, or, it'll let you know what you need to do.
Yeah, the numbers are a key for you as the DM.
Exactly.
So you can, like, okay, the map says it's number one. Now I know, like, where to find that in the book here. I just look up building number one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so there's some people who have a very, linear style of play, but that sandbox is kind of a cool idea for the player characters exploring a town. They're just, hey, what do you guys want to do in the town? And that's a really cool feeling as a player when you're new to the game. And once you get really good, the idea, I mean, that's what elevates it beyond a computer role-playing game, which is I grew up playing those, but not D&D, is that, in Skyrim or whatever, I can go to any building in the town, but like in D&D, like I can make up a town on the spot, and oh, you want to go to a different tavern? Well, I didn't have one in mind, but here's this other tavern, and here's the people who are in it, and you just get really comfortable doing that, and it's the possibilities are limitless.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you really want to level it up, you do what our good friend Barker got me doing, and I think got a lot of us doing, which is when somebody says, "Hey, is there another tavern?" You say, I didn't plan on there being another tavern, but yeah, let's say there is. It's a couple blocks away. What is it called? And he makes you or suggests that you as a player make up the name, and it's like you're not writing the campaign. It likely will have nothing to do with the game, but it makes for a very interesting style of play.
And the thing with Barker is that he makes them have something to do with the game. Like it might show up something from that a player made up.
He'll tie it in like it was always part.
2 sessions later, and you're like, oh, dude, like I made up that NPC, or I decided that was the symbol of whatever house, and and now that's the symbol that we painted in blood on the wall before us.
Yeah, it's like I love that style. That's so cool.
Yeah. Trollocs, man. Okay, so Trollocs, in case people don't know, I love the name, first of all, because it's one of the beasties in the Wheel of Time series, which I have been installed on for 2 years now, and and I haven't seen you in a while, man. It's good to see you. Thanks for joining us. All right, let's see. So I painted the dark brown base of his straps on my my guy here. It's a little messy. I'm gonna have to do a little touch up. And I also painted his collar a very dark natural steel, as well as his breastplate there. But I'm going to have to redo a little bit of that too. I think right now I might actually go ahead and do my brown wash on the actual hairy parts, the natural parts of this beast.
Oh, yeah.
And I've been using my sepia shade, but I think I'm going to go back to the Agrax Earth shade for this one because, like I said, the sepia shade is I just haven't quite figured out the consistency as well as I have the Agrax Earth shade, which just goes on easy.
Right out of the bottle is like
it's beautiful.
So I
still do thin it out.
Oh, so Bloodthirst. Nate is painting the Hound. I am painting the mini here. This dude. So the thing I know the least about, I'd say the thing I'm having the most trouble with right now is knowing what are good and what are not good paintbrushes. Because these paintbrushes seem fine, but these bristles are bringing me to my wit's end because they just keep sticking out of the front of it.
So, okay, a couple tips. Always keep it really wet. And the other thing is sometimes, James, I will, when I am dipping my paint, I will roll the brush as I dip through the paint a little bit, or after I dip the paint. I kind of like roll it to make sure it comes to a fine point.
Okay, yeah. See, but I have the problem I'm having is I have one bristle that's longer than the rest, and it's coming out, and I need to.
Oh yeah, so you got to yank that. You got to yank that, baby.
Yeah, I guess because I was like, no, it'll be fine. I'll just do that, and I'm like, no, it's just not happening.
It's not fine
because that's the first thing that makes contact, and it messes everything else up, and I just
And that might be a sign that it's just not a great brush, but sometimes a good brush will have that once in a while too. I've had it even with my Rosemary and Company, like Sable Kolinsky brushes that, once in a while you just get that one that's come loose. And
I guess that's the thing is I'm just going to switch over to these Army Painter brushes that I have. I have one that'll work for this. The ones I got are like one of two brands that they have at the hobby shop I went to. So I'm like, I didn't have much of a choice, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, well, they weren't that expensive. It was like $5 for three of them, three like different shapes.
Yep.
And I know that they can be, sometimes $5 for one. So I didn't know how much of an indicator of.
So that is a sign to me that's probably not a good brush if they were $5 for three.
Exactly. The other thing I've learned to love is these Army Painter brushes. I don't know if you have other brushes like this. The three-sidedness of them is just brings me such joy. Do you see those Army Painter ones?
So my Army Painter brushes aren't. What do you mean three-sided?
If you look, well, I mean like the grip has. It's like not a perfect circle.
Mine are not like that. Mine are.
Oh, yours are circles. Oh, so can you see mine here? I need to show you this. This is like my favorite new thing.
Yeah.
And even the brand new one I got, that's like, this seemed pretty cheap, based on what it looks like, it seems cheap, but it's got that. And I'm like, dude, that's the best. That's my favorite right now.
Yeah.
Is that shape is really doing it for me.
Yeah. Mike Nicholson said, I've used Winsor and Newton's and some $3 brushes. Both can be good and bad. And yeah, absolutely. I think these Army Painter ones were $5 a piece. And these Rosemary and Company brushes were more like $7 or $8 a piece, or maybe they were $5 a piece. But then I paid shipping from England, which is so that's just happened to be where I could find them. And Winsor and Newton's can be a little hard to find, but on Amazon they're like, I don't know, like $10-15 a piece, and I just haven't. That's what a lot of people recommend, but I've also saw a review that said Rosemary and Company were just as good or even better, but I haven't seen many people say that. I've definitely heard Winsor and Newton seem to be the gold standard, but Army Painter ones are going fine.
Yeah, I just haven't gotten into much. I was just like, they should have some good ones, but basically the where I was getting my stuff, they didn't have great ones. Yeah, just seems to be the thing. They're just like, nope, theirs just aren't very good.
Someone asked, are yours the Army Painter Master Series, James?
I'm going to be honest. I threw away the little card that was in there, but I don't think so.
Okay. Mine are Army Painter that says Hobby Base Coating.
Same for me. Mine say Hobby : and I have Hobby. I have Hobby Small Detail, Hobby Standard Brush, and Hobby Dry.
Okay. What do I have here? Hobby Highlighting and Hobby Base Coating. I just bought two of them. One of them is probably
the one I got was
one of them's a size like 0 or 00. I don't know.
Oh, sizes. See, I didn't get sizes. I'm just like, I look at them, I'm like, oh, that's pretty small.
Yeah. No, That's fine. And people do amazing things with you know, craft paint and cheap brushes. So like it's not
what is it?
Game changer, a deal breaker. There we go.
Good expensive tools is not a good artist to make.
Yes.
It's like a butchering of some other saying, but you get the idea.
Yep. Thirst. My thoughts on video games as I agree with Chet McGovern, who says video games are fantastic. Haha. I would agree with that. Both the video games are fantastic part and the haha part.
I don't know why that's so funny to me, just because I know your sense of humor, and that makes me laugh so much.
Yeah, video games are good. I play them. I do. There's this sort of WASD part of the channel name that indicates that I sometimes use a keyboard to make virtual people move around. I don't prove it very often on the channel, but I do play video games. James and I play Overwatch quite a bit, and we're into those Blizzard things. We were talking about Destiny coming up, Destiny 2.
Oh yeah, man. I did not play Destiny 1. I have no idea. I know that in Destiny you shoot stuff and you level up, and I'm like, that's all it takes to get me to play a video game.
Yep. But I was also talking with James the other day about how, like, you know, sometimes we need a break from video games, and it's kind of like, it's nice to have a time period. Sorry if you can hear my hairdryer, craft blower. Whatever.
I was gonna say I can hear you great. I don't know about people in the stream, but
good.
The blower is so far away. Yeah.
Good. I'm putting it under my desk right now. So anyway, it's nice to have like a little respite when there's like, hey, I'm not like super into a video game where I feel like super compelled to like play something right now. And that's kind of nice because I'm getting some other things done. And James, you mentioned for you, that's like, I'm getting some miniature painting done, man. Like I'm putting these things together and getting into this. This is fun. Exactly. And for me, sometimes it's like, yeah, you know, it can be anything, like reading books that I meant to read or never, you know, started and didn't finish, or just hanging out and watching a certain TV show with my wife, or like whatever.
Yeah. And for me, I feel like I have a benefit as far as reading. I wouldn't get nearly as much reading done as I do, but I read before I go to bed. Mm-hmm. And because I have trouble falling asleep immediately. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I get books read on a long enough timeline, I'll finish a book. It takes a while. Yeah. But I am happy that I get to do that even if I play video games, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Because I can't play video games until I fall asleep. It doesn't work that way.
Right. No, that doesn't work so well. I've done it.
Yeah, I've done it. Man, I used to play World of Warcraft, and it was just... Yeah. I would fall asleep while playing it.
Yeah, I've fallen asleep during load screens or during cutscenes of Metal Gear Solid games.
See, but those can be 20 to 30.
Brutal.
I remember
ridiculous.
I remember my mom was like, we had to go to the store, and I was playing Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah.
And she's like, James, we gotta go. You know, I gotta get whatever for dinner. I'm like, all right, just after this cutscene. And she's like, well, no, we got to go now. I'm like, well, I can't pause it. And I explained to her what a cutscene is. They're playing this movie I can't see again. I need to see it. It's the story. I was near the end of the game. This was legitimately a 20, 30-minute cutscene. Oh, and after like 15 minutes, she was like, we got to go. And I had to skip it, end the game, come back, beat the boss fight again, and then watch it because when I had time.
Yes.
You couldn't like pause it or anything. Oh, it was the worst.
Yep. Been there. And here was my thing. I realized that, okay, so I love Metal Gear Solid, and I played, when I got a PS2, I played Metal Gear Solid 2, and then I played Metal Gear Solid 3, and then I was like, I'm gonna go back and play 1 because I never had a PlayStation.
Oh yeah.
And so I got it for the PS2 or whatever, and so and then I got Metal Gear Solid 4 after I got a PS3, and I was kind of late to the game on that, and I was like, that's the reason I wanted a PS3. Yeah, I wanted a PS3 because Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted over... Oh, actually, you know what? I already had an Xbox 360. Anyway, whatever. So I got that game as soon as I got the PS3, and I was super pumped about it. And I realized that the Metal Gear Solid games are not for me when I had kids, and I was always tired. And as soon as the cutscene came on, I was out, man.
Exactly. You need a little more action.
Right. And and I still have never finished Metal Gear Solid 4. I probably got about 10 hours into that game, 5 hours, and it's just like, man, I just realized like I have watched the same cutscene 3 nights in a row now, and I'm gonna fall asleep to that cutscene I will fall asleep to that cutscene 10 nights
100 more times.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just am not going to make any progress in this game anymore. So that's a bummer. But
yeah, you're just like, listen, until they're in college and I get to download it on the PS10, then maybe we'll get a chance.
On good old games. or on the PS3 emulator on my 2028 PC.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, so I don't know if you can see it, but this guy's coming out great. Just the red and the bronze alone are beautiful. I cannot figure out how cameras work right now.
Yeah. Hey, your brother's here, man.
I saw that. I wasn't going to let him know that I wasn't Tabletop Terrors right now. I had forgotten. But I'm not in the chat, so it's okay.
I like that guy. Oh, yeah. Nice work. So my wash is not getting in the recesses as much as I had hoped, but I'm gonna take a dip of the other stuff to try to see if I can darken it up more. This is the sepia shade from Vallejo. It
seems like there aren't many recesses. It's hard to tell from here.
Right. But... Well, I wonder if I filled them in too much with my paint, but anyway, it's possible that I got my paint a little too thick because I was like frustrated with it not covering well, but
yeah, I'm
gonna try this game color and see if. Yeah, there aren't as many like deep. The recesses are not deep. None of them are. That's the thing. They're there. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put this first of all, this wash in the areas I don't mind being darker permanently, just to make sure that it's not like. Yeah. See. Okay. It is a little. So like I can get a little down there and then up here, and a little over there. But I'm kind of afraid to put it on all the surfaces. So I'm just gonna go in the areas I want a little bit of shadow. Whereas usually with a wash, you put it all over the whole thing. You can use a wash as shade in just certain areas too and pinpoint it a little more.
Exactly.
When it's thick like this is.
Oh yeah, that's the thick one. I forgot.
Yeah, this is that one that's it's a little more oily and thick, and it's really nice. I'm glad I got it, but it takes a little getting used to.
Uh-oh.
Tim says you dipstick add a touch of water.
I just made that up. Yeah, he said you dipstick to the tabletop not being logged into Tabletop Terrors because he literally told me that. Like I said, he's like, hey, just don't forget. You know, he's like, are you going to be able to? I was like, oh yeah. And then I realized it the moment you got here and we went live. Not when you got here, but when we went live, when it was definitely too late.
Yep.
So I'm going to switch over to the tiny, tiny, tiny brush I got.
Okay. He's doing it.
One little spot. Yeah, let's see. So do you just like wet your brushes before you put paint on them?
I usually do. Yes. Or yes, I do, because I always dip my brush to get some water, even if I'm dipping to get a little water in the paint. I have to dip it first, and then I mix it around, and then I can go onto the miniature with it thinned appropriately. And it's always easy, you know, if it's too thin, sometimes you can get in trouble with it flowing places you don't want it to flow, but it's much better to get it too thin than too thick initially, because too thick can cause you problems.
Yeah, that makes sense. So Bloodthirst asked why I'm not live on my channel, mostly because I joined Nate in his Hangout. And so he was hosting, so it didn't matter as much that I wasn't logged in as Tabletop Terrors. If I were to talk in the chat, it would have mattered a little bit more, but it didn't matter. And yeah, Tim mentioned the overlay. I made a really cool overlay that makes it very clear that I'm Tabletop Terrors. So I was very happy because I hate Tim. That's why. I was very happy with how it came out. It looks great.
Yeah, dude, I hate Tim too. He's a dipstick.
He's a dipstick. That is the perfect word. Use his own thing against him.
He's showing up as Tabletop Terrors now, so
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, that would be kind of cool if we could go live on both of our channels at the same time.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be an interesting thing. I think you can kind of do that on Twitch, like you can host other channels, you know?
Oh yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah, but I don't think you can do that on YouTube, like in terms of hosting other channels.
And oh yeah, I wouldn't get the Hangout. I could stream me only if I wanted, but it would also hurt my internet a lot.
Yeah, it would be doing double duty. All right, so I am gonna try the wash full on his little face here, because I'm okay with that getting a little bit darker. I want to see more of that detail, and I'll eventually be putting a little blackness kind of around his mouth, because if you look up Mastiff pictures, they usually
have
blackness around the mouth and the nose.
I know exactly what you mean. They definitely have that.
Mm-hmm. So you can start to pick out a little more of the detail there on that thing, which is good. And then I'm going to do a black wash on his back. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if it's going to do what I want it to do. I saw Dr. Faust do this, but it was on a much thicker fur cloak that he wanted to make look like a wolf cloak or a wolf hide or something like that. And it was like, oh man, that looks so good. That's what gave me the inspiration for this Mastiff to do that. But we'll see. I'm not super confident.
There is a really amazing little tutorial. So this guy Duncan on the shows you how to paint the Warhammer minis. There's another girl that does it as well, but I think Duncan does the newer ones. Mm-hmm. And they do these daily tip videos, and he did one on cloaks, like fur cloaks, the other day. That blew my mind. It was such a cool fur cloak. So if you're interested in a fur cloak thing like that, it's really cool.
That's awesome. I'll have to check that out. You have to send me the link later.
I will do that.
All right, so I put a little black wash on his back there. No, it's not. It's not really doing what I want it to do. I'm going to dab it with my finger, actually. That's another thing you can do with miniatures sometimes. Dab with your finger.
Like when you just put it in a spot you don't want to?
Yeah, like that wash. I don't want to. I could just dip a corner of paper towel into it, but I don't mind getting my finger a little painty. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's the Mastiff is not as I envisioned it. But it's looking like, okay, that's a dog, whatever. I'm gonna paint his eyes and his I'll get his strap a little lighter with this brown sand. It's a newer color I got. Questing Beast is in the house. Welcome, Questing Beast. People don't know about him. Check him out. He's got some cool mapping videos and kind of obscure RPG book reviews that I love, and so check him out. And he says that just started painting minis after about 15 years. Got a box of Warhammer. Okay, WHFB. What's that, James? Warhammer Fantasy. Dwarf Warriors.
No idea. Warhammer. Yeah,
help us out here, Ben. What is?
Yeah, because the new thing. I'm very brand new into it, like a month. The new thing is Age of Sigmar. So yeah, Warhammer Fantasy Battles probably is what it used to be called.
Okay, yep.
Maybe, I really don't know, because they used to have square bases. I don't really know much about it. I do know that there used to be square bases and they used to be a little different. Warhammer Fantasy Battles, yeah. Called that one.
You did, man.
I had seen it somewhere, but yeah. Oh, that is one thing that's really cool about Warhammer. Yes, thank you, Andrew. For that confirmation. One thing that's cool about Warhammer is when they make new versions and stuff, because the stats are separate, they just upgrade the stats and you're golden. You usually have to buy, or depending on what you're playing, you have to buy the stats, but you can play all your old armies in new editions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so this is just coming in as an outsider. It seems like having to buy the stats, it seems like you're just asking to have people pirate them or just post them online in random places.
Yeah, the important thing is when you buy it, you buy a thing called a codex. They changed them. I think they did what's called indexes. And the important thing is you buy it for a whole army. So if you're going to play, okay, so these guys, if I'm playing, it's different for a Sigmar because they're free, the War Scrolls. But if I was playing Chaos Warriors, you buy one Chaos Warriors book for $20, and it has any Chaos Warrior you can buy is in there.
Yep.
So you don't have to it's not like onesie, twosie, oh, I got this guy, so I got to buy his stats. But if you play a lot of armies, if you played all the armies, if you played Necrons, specifically for 40K, they just came out with a new series. Or, what do you call that? edition. If you
Okay.
there was like 5 different ones. If you played Xenos, so all the aliens. If you played Space Marines, all of the Space Marines. You know, so it was like they make it a little easy, but you still it's like $20 each. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, but that's what I was gonna say. It's not just the stats. It's a book of a ton of stuff. It shows you different paint schemes for the different chapters, a ton of lore, really cool pictures. Like it's like RPG books without rules, basically. Like if you love a specific faction, you gotta get these books because it's like buying Volo's Guide.
Yeah,
to some degree.
Cool. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. Yeah, cool. Yeah, so it's like buying the monster manual. Like you can.
Yeah, so it's like
people have posted those stats for that monster somewhere, but you want to get the art, you want to get the book in your hands. It's just awesome.
Exactly. Very cool.
Yep. Oh man, so I have this. I use this a lot. This is Carne Oscura, dark flesh tone, and it's a good like dark reddish kind of brown. But it just came out like it was almost all navy blue here. So that's the thing. Like some of these colors, even after I shake it, it's like, and then I squirt it some more, and then it's like, okay, now it's coming out like as a little bit of like the reddish mixed with it. But it's weird how the paint kind of separates, or it's not mixed well in the first place. So.
So
brown highlight here, but
G Brois asked how long the stream is going to be. I didn't realize it was 11:20 right now.
Oh, yeah. So we'll probably be ending it in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't realize, and I'm like, I mean, I'm just painting minis, but whatever. So
I can talk with James for hours. We do it several times a week.
Yeah. So I was like, but then the other question, Alex C asked, is your hand cramping by holding the mini itself? I'm assuming he's talking to me, because I'm holding the mini and you are not. My hand is not cramping. I am jealous of the cool thing that Nate showed me where you use some, what is it, blue tack?
Yeah.
Where you put it on there.
I mean, you might be able to do it with any poster putty, but blue tack is especially sticky stuff.
Yeah. And so this is working for me because I can just hold the mini in my hand. But I think doing what Nate is doing has its advantages without question.
Yeah. No, I'm fine painting miniatures without that too, but yep. Okay, so I got this dark brown. I might as well now get his eyes a little bit. I'm not gonna try to like paint the whites of his eyes or anything like that. I'm just putting a little shadow in there. And I might as well just, while I'm at it, I got a little darkish brown. I might as well get his nose a little bit too. And then I can always go back with a black if I want to make it actually.
Questing Beast says, I just really like the way that the models look when you rank them up in blocks. I assume you mean the square bases. I agree that looks very cool, especially when I see the historical wargaming stuff and you just see all the guys in like rank and file. They do look really cool.
Yeah. All right, this nose looks ridiculous. It looks like a clown nose. So now I need to go look up pictures of Mastiffs to see like, what did I do wrong? I thought they had brown noses.
Oh man, that's the best.
I think I might have just made it too big.
I tried to paint rivets the other day and it was like, it didn't help at all. I was like trying to just do it a little tiny ones that didn't work.
Yeah, I know, I hear you. So it looks like a lot of Mastiffs actually have like all this right here is actually going to be probably dark brown, like his whole muzzle. So it won't look as ridiculous when I do that. So I'm gonna take a look at this guy once again, just see if there's anything else I want to finish up on him before we cut it out here. But he's looking pretty good. There's some spots, but
so that is one interesting thing I find, is that you, like, as someone who's just painting the mini, you don't have like a guide. You're like, no, I want his pants to be blue, so that's it. Someone told me that I posted a picture of one of the guys I painted, and they're like, oh, it's really good color, like colors, and I'm like, you don't understand. Those guys, like, there are paintings of those guys. I have like looked at pictures of them, like, I can only take credit for the painting. I cannot take credit for how cool all the colors went together. I didn't like, come up with them. So I do want to do like some different color schemes, but like, basically I feel like it's a little different because you're like, no, you are deciding what color your minis are.
Yeah. Yep. No, that makes sense. And yeah, I've never used like guides beyond like looking pictures up online, like, oh, they painted this color, this and this, and no, I'll do this and this. And I've never like copied a paint scheme, but yeah, that is a nice thing because it kind of, there is an art to picking colors too.
Exactly.
That, like, if you can remove that, then you can focus on, like, especially when you're a beginner, then you can focus more on, like, the skill of painting it.
Because this red and bronze is beautiful together.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, I might have come up with that, but it would have taken a while. I certainly can't take credit for it.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Someone asked about Bloodthirst asked about cork minis. I like, or cork bases. I don't know if you mean like actual like bases for your miniatures or like a painting handle, but I have this for painting handle. Yeah, so
the cork seems really cool.
Wine corks work well. Yeah, in terms of cork bases for miniatures, I know nothing of that, but I like a heavy base, so I usually use a washer or a plastic base with. Sometimes I'll even, like, if I have a plastic base and it's a plastic mini, sometimes I'll even like glue a penny or a washer on the bottom just to give it some weight.
I didn't even consider that. Like, those don't come with bases. You just have to buy bases or put them on something, right?
That is correct. Yeah, like the new WizKids unpainted ones come with bases. They're kind of thin. They're not great, but that is nice that they come with a base. But yeah, the Reaper Bones, if you buy Reaper Bones at a store, they do not come with a base. And anyway, I've got thoughts on bases in other videos, but I generally will use a fender washer or buy some plastic bases.
Yeah, I love the idea of putting something heavy in there.
Yeah, with a plastic mini, it's nice. Just gives it a little more stability at the table, you know. James, I think we might end this here.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I have no idea how much time passed.
Yeah.
Matt showed up.
It's been an hour. How long? Okay, so we started at 9:45-ish.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. I can't do math, but it's been a while, James.
Fair enough, man.
I'm gonna move the camera real quick here. I never feel like I'm super productive on these live stream meetings.
I learned that.
Even less so tonight because of because I was painting a Mastiff and it was just it didn't go as well as I had hoped.
But it is, it's like you realize it's like, no, you're hanging out. Like you're like 25% painting, 75% talking to people and hanging out, which is totally cool with me. Like, it was a lot of fun. I learned a lot of stuff, but it's a good thing to know when you're like, we're gonna do some painting. We're gonna do a very small amount of painting. Right.
Yeah, and it totally depends on the miniature and how good an idea you have of what you're doing and stuff like that too, and how set you are with your colors. And sometimes you can spend 20 minutes of talking while trying to figure out the right color.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been awesome, James. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and painting some miniatures. I just heard from James like a week ago, like, I got some Warhammer minis. I'm like, that's awesome. And like me and Tim and some of the other guys were like, James, you got to do some videos on it. And I was like, James, how about you jump in a hangout with me and let's paint some minis?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Thank you so much, guys, for hanging out. And I hope you have a great weekend. And I hope you got in some gaming and have more good gaming and adventures to come. Check out James's channel along with his brother Tim, who's harassing us in the chat. Tabletop Terrors, awesome channel for if you're getting into D&D or you just like inspirational stuff. And also check out their independent publishing company, Absolute Tabletop. Anything else you want to say, James?
Real quick, I'll answer Buge's question. I've never done anything with D&D, but I'm looking to get started. Super easy answer. You should get yourself a D&D starter set that has a starter adventure, all the rules you need to play, get some people. Super awesome. Other than that, this was great. We got to do it again. If you want to see these finished minis, when I do eventually finish them, I'm definitely going to post pictures in the Absolute Tabletop Facebook group. So if you're curious, join that, and maybe a couple days to a week, I'll get these guys finished and I'll get up some pictures.
Yeah. Cool, man. Can't wait to see it. And thanks again, everybody. Have a great night. Keep on being cool, and you'll see me again very soon.